With Scott and Catherine Taylor at Esprit de Corps, they have so many stories, and many of them have been written in Scott's 7 books. One of the stories, not your favorite story by any stretch of the imagination, Catherine, was told recently in a National Geographic documentary, which you had a very difficult time watching.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you must watch it once, but it certainly does give rise to many difficult feelings at the time. We were very angry.
Scott, this is a tough one because Catherine, as the co-founder of the magazine, co-publisher, knows what is good for the magazine, and that is you out there uncovering truths, covering stories, and you're in harm's way. It's really hard to reconcile, difficult to reconcile as his wife.
Absolutely. I mean, I think any husband and wife going in business in the first place, it's a very difficult, complicated relationship. But certainly there is a conundrum. We always want Scott to be in these places. However, as his wife, I get very angry about
I think that up until that happened, until the hostage incident happened in 2004, we both sort of sensed that I was invincible. Growing up the whole time, we didn't have that wake-up call yet. It was always, we knew there was dangers, but it was always going to happen to somebody else. Once it happened to me, and then it was something which she had to then look at and face it, and her friends were saying, how could you let him go, etc. But I mean, at the same time, we'd always believed that somehow, some way,
nothing would ever happen to him.
You'll be okay.
He had great
right?
instincts.
And of course, and not to deny, you do have great instincts from what you've said, Catherine, but very few relationships and very few marriages can say, oh, the hostage-taking incident, which did take place in Iraq in 2004.
Right, and that's something which, again, even to see it for her, I think, I mean, she'd read about it, heard it from my stories, but when she saw this Locked Up Abroad, the National Geographic film, when you see an actor playing me being tortured, I mean, for me looking at somebody torturing me at the same time, I mean, it's difficult to watch because it's, when you were there, you were looking at it through your own blindfold as opposed to seeing it done and then being able to merge it. So. And
the book that you're actually touring the country discussing now is Unembedded. Tell us about Unembedded.
This is the midlife memoir, we call it. I mean, this is the first 20 years, if you will, and of course it starts off with that torture scene. Natural segue, because of course you are going to look back on your life and say, how did a kid from Scarborough, Ontario, an art student, end up being tortured in an Iraqi house in 2004? And that, of course, by the time you read the book, you realize I was kind of lucky to get there.
As you mark the anniversary of Esprit de Corps, the magazine, we want to introduce one of your longtime friends and contributors.
Absolutely.
Huge part of the magazine, yes.
Les Pete, who's also an author. He is the author of The War That Wasn't, Canadians in Korea. Les, nice to spend time with you, and called The War That Wasn't. Why, sir?
Well, because it was about 40 years before the Canadian government finally agreed that it was a war, it wasn't a police action. And we weren't really veterans legally, in some respects at least, until the 90s. So they finally agreed, as did the Americans and a number of other nations, that it was in fact a war. Because when you're shooting at people and people are shooting at you, you tend to think it is.
Now this is you, a younger Les Pete, and a Les Pete who actually grew up during the war in Britain.
In Britain, yes.
And that was a tough place to be.
Well, it was. It wasn't. In fact, we were pretty well looked after by our government, and surprisingly, although we had food shortages and things like that, we had a much healthier breed, I think, of young people than we have nowadays. So.
Now, this is a chance for you to speak to young people, Les, and how would you like people to think about Remembrance Day on a day like that?
Okay, I would like to say, you said think about Remembrance Day. Remember, everybody is hyped up this week. We're thinking of veterans, we're honouring our veterans, but I'd like you to remember that there are 51 more weeks in the year. Our veterans are still suffering, they're still lonely, and they're still suffering from their sad memories. Please, in the 51 other weeks of the year, think of a veteran, send them a Valentine, go and talk to them, even sit and listen to old people like me telling the war stories for the 50th time, but you've heard it.
We want to thank you very much for sharing some of your war stories with us. So long from Esprit de Corps magazine.
Thank you.